The latest film from Indian superstar or starring Indian superstar Shah Rukh Khan has just hit American screens, entitled DUNKI, directed by Rajkumar Hirani and co-starring Taapsee Pannu, and it is a comedy drama. Let's say those are the two things it's most: comedy drama, and of course partially musical. So this film has nothing to. It's called Donkey. Has, for American viewers, it has nothing to do with donuts. It is a film about a group. It's sort of a framed story. So the modern day framework of this story is three. I don't want to say elderly, gray haired. Let's say mature. Three mature Indian friends who are living in London decide they're going to go back home to India, but they can't get visas, and they have to figure out a way by calling upon an old friend of theirs who's they haven't seen in a long time, portrayed by Shah Rukh Khan, to help them. They're going to meet in Dubai, and they're going to try to get back to India. Well, along the way, we get the flashback. The majority of the film is the flashback of how these originally four friends met in India and all tried to get visas to go to London to search for a better life. They all live in some levels of poverty. They all have some sort of financial strain on them that they feel that if they go to London and get a good job, they can send money back home and basically save their families. So it's the story of their struggle to get a visa and what it took at the time. I think it's set in the mid to late 90s, the flashback portion of the film. What it takes to get a visa, whether it's being a good student or being a doctor or learning English. And they settle on learning English. They have to speak English to be able to get a visa, and then becomes this comedic series of events where they're in an English class and all of that. So it's a very goofy comedy for the most part. But once the four decide that the only way, or they find that the only way they can get to London is the donkey route, which means donkey, which means basically illegal immigration, walking and riding in secret across the continent to get to England. That's the only way they can get there. Then they come upon some hardship and some really dark and traumatic times. So the film really, it's a pendulum swing that goes both ways. Yes, there are musical numbers in the film. They are Bollywood musical numbers, or Bollywood style, let's say, to be accurate, Indian film musical numbers, where suddenly everybody's singing and dancing in the streets and that sort of thing. And those are there. Not a lot of them. I think there's two, but they're there. And this was really good. This was the comedy was very funny. The cast is very likable. Taapsee Pannu is a very strong female lead in the film, who is this strong-willed woman whose family has sort of had to move out of their beautiful home because they hit hard times, and they have to live in like the guest house. And her mission is to go to be able to restore her family reputation and her family back to the less shameful existence they had. And Khan plays this former soldier who has a connection to the family, her family, I think it is. It is. He has a connection to her late brother. There's a lot going on in this story. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. There's a lot of story in the story. I'm not going to get into it all, but basically a romance develops between the two of them, and he decides he's going to help her and her other two friends get to where they need to go. What's great is I'm learning the isms of Indian film and of the various Indian stars. And when Khan first shows up on screen, he's super suave, and it's slow-mo, and it's the wind in his hair. And he's a guy who no matter where he goes, at the right time, always a little wind in the hair, and always like super dramatic machismo slow-mo. He's just badass and cool, and I love seeing him in films. And the whole cast is fun. And as I said, it goes back and forth, so it deals with the real world issues of what it takes to be able to be an immigrant from one country to another, what it takes to go the proper route, and how hard that is for some people, and how that bars from some people from ever being able to go where they want to go or leave their country. So they take the less noble and much more difficult path, and the cost that comes along with that, which is far more than cash. As I said, the film has bookends. It balances the scales pretty evenly between comedy and tragedy. Well, the comedies can be very silly and very funny, and the serious moments are gravely serious at times. And I just thought it was really well done. It moved me in every way that the film wanted to move me. It is released from Red Chillies Entertainment, if I didn't mention that already. And it was really good. Now, these Indian films in America tend to not play, unless they're like a super success like RRR was last year. They tend to not play very long. So if this is playing anywhere near you, like everything, it'll eventually work its way to streaming, I think, somewhere. But if you want to see this in the theater, and I recommend seeing it in the theater, you really should try to jump on this because it won't play most locations in America more than probably a week. But if you're watching this video down the line, good luck finding it online somewhere. It was good. I really quite enjoyed this. And I enjoyed how it did tie it in with real world issues. And they do have some text at the end giving you facts about what it takes to get from place to place. And this film has an opinion, you know, and it's not necessarily an opinion I disagree with. So it's a really good film, really interesting, really funny. The musical numbers are entertaining and fun. And one thing I will say about Indian films in America, it's something I noticed since I've been going. They tend to be played when I see these in an American theater. First of all, I usually go on a weekday or a weekend matinee, and I'm usually the only person in the theater. If maybe there's a few other people. I went to a different area than I usually. I went somewhere out of state to see this movie, and there actually was a good number of people. I was the only Caucasian in the audience, but that was cool because it was people who this film was literally speaking their language. And I will say too, if anybody, this is a film that's presented, you know, in either in Hindi or Telugu, depending on how you see it, and it's going to be English subtitles for the English-speaking people. This is a film that, because they're dealing with England and the British on occasion and dealing with trying to learn English, there is more actual English spoken in this film than in your average Indian film. So that's, if you don't like to read subtitles, this one's probably going to be a little easier for you than ones where it's just nonstop, not English. So very good film, very well made. But what I was about to say was, when I see these in the theater, they are played incredibly loudly. Like, the volume is so loud, it distorts in the theater. The volume is so loud. I actually brought earplugs with me. Now, this is the rare occasion, I bring this up, this is the rare occasion where the film actually was played at normal volume, but everything else I've seen for Indian films, they're played like disturbingly loud, to the degree where the first few times I went, I would tear up the napkin I had with me and stick it in my ears because I didn't want to suffer hearing damage. From what I've sussed out, asking some fellow film exhibitors online, the films are just mastered more loudly, and a lot of theaters don't bother to adjust. A lot of American theaters don't bother to adjust that. Combined with the Indian audience, from what I'm told, likes it louder. Some people are saying that a lot of the Indian audiences tend to talk during the film, more of a cultural thing. So I don't know. So if you're a Caucasian, you normally goes to Hollywood movies guy like me, just saying, if you go to see an Indian film in the theater, you may want to bring earplugs because the volume level is really, really loud, which is unfortunate because it's really the only thing that I ever find unappealing about these films when I go to them. As I've said, I've never seen an Indian film I didn't like, and the only downside to me is, at least finally I've gotten into the habit, I'm just going to bring earplugs and a winter hat that I pull down over my ears. Other than that, visual splendor. In theaters now, DUNKI.